The celestial gulp was not a nice place. It was not clean. It was not safe. It sat at the edge of known space, orbiting a dying star that gave off more radiation than light. The kind of place where people came to disappear. The kind of place where nobody asked questions. Liked it just fine. He sat at the bar, nursing a warm beer that tasted like someone had filtered engine coolant through old socks. His left shoulder hung at a bad angle. 3 hours ago, a loading robot had malfunctioned and tried to crush him against a cargo container. He had won that fight, but his shoulder had paid the price. Dislocated. He should probably get it fixed. He would get it fixed. Eventually. The bar was crowded tonight. A group of eyes sat in one corner, their insect bodies clicking and buzzing as they played some kind of gambling game with glowing chips. They had too many legs and too many eyes, but they were decent people. Good traders. Fair dealers. Had bought engine parts from one of them last month. The eye had given him a square deal, which was rare out here. Near the window, a blob of living gelatin called was slowly absorbing a drink through its membrane. It had no face, no eyes, no mouth. Just a mass of thinking jelly that somehow ran one of the most successful information networks in this sector. Had learned not to stare. The bartender was another, smaller, bluer, with a name that sounded like bubbles popping underwater. It slid drinks across the counter with surprising speed for something that looked like a wet pillow. Took another sip of his terrible beer. His shoulder throbbed. The station hummed around him with the sound of old machinery working too hard. Just another night at the edge of nowhere. Then the airlock opened. The sound hit first, a deep mechanical groan as the heavy doors separated. Then silence, complete and total silence. Every conversation stopped. Every glass paused halfway to lips. Every eye, antenna, and sensory organ in the bar turned toward the entrance. Turned too, and felt his stomach drop. I stood in the doorway. 8 feet tall, maybe more. Its body was covered in scales that looked like armor plate, dark green and black, with patterns of bioluminescent light pulsing underneath. Its head was wedge-shaped, with a mouth full of teeth that could bite through steel. 4 arms, each ending in claws that looked like curved knives. Its eyes were yellow, with vertical pupils that scanned the room like targeting systems. Had heard of, everyone had. They came from a death world, a planet so hostile that everything on it had evolved to kill everything else. The had won that evolutionary war. They were apex predators, the top of a food chain made entirely of monsters. The galactic surveys had a special classification for their do not land. They stepped into the bar. The floor shook slightly under its weight. The lights on its scales pulsed in a pattern that's translator helpfully identified as threatening display. Nobody moved, nobody breathed. The eyes swept the room. They stopped on the corner where the eye were sitting. One of the, smaller than the others, began to shake. Its many legs clicked against the floor in what recognized as pure terror. The spoke, its voice was deep, like rocks grinding together. Merchant of the Eye Trade Clan, you have debts. They have been purchased. I am Hunter of the Apex Caste. I claim the right of collection. The small eye made a sound like breaking glass. The translator rendered it as a scream. Knew what this was. He had heard about it. Debt hunting. When someone owed money to the wrong people, those people could sell the debt to a hunter. The hunter would track down the debtor and kill them. It was legal under galactic law. It was tradition. It was, according to culture, honorable. It was also about to happen right in front of him. The moved forward. The crowd parted like water around a shark. Nobody would help. Nobody would interfere. Interfering with a hunt meant becoming part of the hunt yourself. That was also tradition. The eye merchant pressed itself against the wall. Its many eyes were wide with terror. It was making sounds that the translator could not process, just raw fear turned into noise. Watched, he remembered buying those engine parts. The eye had been nervous, twitchy, clearly desperate for the sale, but it had still given a fair price, had not tried to cheat him, had not padded the invoice or sold him broken parts. In a place like this, where everyone was trying to survive, that kind of honesty was rare. The raised one-clawed hand, its scales pulsed with light. The killing blow was coming. Sighed, he looked at his dislocated shoulder. He looked at his warm, terrible beer. He thought about all the reasons this was a bad idea. There were many reasons. They were all very good reasons. He turned to the sitting next to him. "Ouch," he said, gesturing at his shoulder. "Hold my beer." The took the glass with a confused ripple of its membrane. Stood up, his chair scraped against the floor. In the silence of the bar, it sounded like thunder. The paused, its head turned. Those yellow eyes focused on with the intensity of a targeting laser. "Human," the said. Its voice carried something that might have been curiosity, or might have been hunger. "You are in my path." "Yeah," said, "I noticed." "Move or be added to the hunt." Did not move. His heart was pounding. His shoulder was screaming. Every survival instinct in his body was telling him to run. Humans were not built to fight. Humans were soft, slow, and fragile. The galactic databases said so. But had never been very good at listening to databases. "That he said, nodding toward the terrified merchant, "gave me a fair deal once. Didn't have to, could have cheated me like everyone else, but it didn't." The tilted its head. "This is relevant how?" "It means I owe it one," said, "and I pay my debts." The bar was so quiet that could hear his own heartbeat, could hear the soft hum of the station's life support, could hear the terrified clicking of the eye behind the massive predator. The scales pulsed brighter, its threat display intensified. When it smiled, it showed every single one of its many, many teeth. "Interesting," it said. "Very well, human, you are now part of the hunt." It moved toward him, raised his fists. His left shoulder screamed in protest. Blood was already pounding in his ears. Somewhere in the back of his mind, a small voice was asking him what exactly his plan was. He did not have an answer. The moved fast, faster than something that big had any right to move. One moment it was standing 3 meters away. The next moment, its clawed hand was cutting through the air towards chest. Twisted, not fast enough to dodge completely. The claws caught him across the ribs, slicing through his jacket, through his shirt, through skin. Pain exploded across his side. He felt blood, hot and wet, running down his body. He did not fall. The paused just for a moment. Its yellow eyes showed something that might have been confusion. The human should have fallen. Prey always fell after the first strike. Stumbled back, one hand pressed against his bleeding side. The pain was bad, very bad, but he had felt worse. Once, on a mining colony in the outer rim, a support beam had fallen on his leg. He had dragged himself 2 kilometers to the medical station. This was nothing compared to that. "Okay," he said, breathing hard. "That hurt." He straightened up. Blood was soaking through his fingers. The wound was deep but not fatal. His body was already doing its job, trying to seal the damage, pumping chemicals into his bloodstream to deal with the trauma. The bar watched in horrified silence. Several patrons had started recording with their personal devices. Others were quietly placing bets. Most were just staring, unable to look away from the strange scene unfolding before them. The bartender leaned toward a customer. Its voice was soft, like wind through wet grass. "Interesting," it said. "Very interesting." "What is?" the eye clicked. "Watch the human. Watch how it moves." The attacked again. This time it was faster, angrier. 2 claws swept in from different angles, dropped low, letting one pass over his head, then rolled sideways to avoid the other. He crashed into a table, sending drinks flying. Pain shot through his injured shoulder. He got up anyway. The growled. Its scales were pulsing faster now, the bioluminescent patterns shifting from threatening to frustrated. This was not how hunts were supposed to go. Prey was supposed to run. Prey was supposed to fall. Prey was not supposed to keep standing up. "You are bleeding," they observed. Its voice was cold, analytical. "Your body is damaged. Why do you not fall?" Wiped blood from his mouth. He was not sure when he had bitten his tongue. "Sorry to disappoint you." He grabbed a chair and threw it. Not at that would be pointless. At the light fixture above it. The fixture shattered, raining sparks and broken glass down on the predator. It did no damage, the scales were too tough, but it bought 2 seconds to put a table between them. "The human," the bartender continued to its audience, "is a pursuit predator. Do you know what that means?" The eye shook its head. "It means they evolved to chase prey, not to catch it quickly but to follow it, for hours, for days. Their bodies are built for endurance. Their hearts can pump blood at maximum speed for extended periods. Their cooling system is extremely efficient. They sweat." "They sweat." Yes, it sounds disgusting. It is disgusting. But it means they do not overheat. They can keep going when other predators must stop and rest. The lunged across the table, jumped back but not fast enough. Claws caught his arm, raking deep furrows through muscle. He hit the ground hard, rolled, and came up bleeding from yet another wound. The eye watching was trembling. But the human is losing. It is being torn apart. "Yes," they agreed. "But it is not dying. Humans have another trait. They are very, very hard to kill quickly. Their bodies resist shock. They can lose blood that would kill other species and remain conscious. They have a chemical called adrenaline that floods their system in times of danger. It blocks pain, increases strength, sharpens focus." Was on his feet again. His left arm was barely working now, hanging at his side, dripping red. His ribs were on fire, but his eyes were clear. His stance was steady. And he was smiling. "What is it doing?" the eye whispered. "Why is it smiling?" "Because," they said, "humans are also very strange. They have a psychological trait that other species find disturbing. When they are pushed to their limits, when everything is going wrong, when any reasonable creature would surrender and accept death, something in their brain clicks over." "Clicks over to what?" This membrane rippled in what might have been a shrug. "We do not have a word for it. The closest translation would be spite, or perhaps stubbornness raised to a philosophy. Humans call it many things: grit, determination, refusing to quit, but it all comes down to the same thing." On the bar floor, grabbed a broken bottle. His blood mixed with the spilled drinks on the floor. The circled him, yellow eyes calculating, trying to figure out why this small, soft creature would not simply die. "They decide that they will not lose," they continued. "Not because they can win, not because victory is possible, but because losing is unacceptable. And once a human decides something is unacceptable, they become very difficult to stop." The struck again. This time did not try to dodge. He stepped into the blow, letting the claws rake across his back as he got inside the predator's guard. His bloody hand shot up, and the broken bottle jammed into the gap between the scales at its shoulder joint. The roared. It was the first sound of pain it had made. It threw across the room. He hit the wall hard enough to crack the plating. He slid to the floor. And got up again. "Impossible," the eye breathed. "No," they said, "just human." Stood in the middle of the wrecked bar. Blood covered him, his own mostly. He was swaying on his feet. His vision was starting to blur at the edges, but his fists were still raised. His eyes were still locked on his enemy. "Okay," he said. His voice was rough, strained. "Now I'm warmed up." They stared at him. Something had changed in those yellow eyes, something that might have been the first tiny seed of doubt. This hunt was not going according to plan. 5 minutes passed, then 10, then 15. The bar had been completely destroyed. Tables were broken, chairs were smashed. The floor was covered in spilled drinks, broken glass, and blood. Lots of blood. Most of it was red. Some of it was green. Was still standing. He should not have been standing. Any medical scan would have shown injuries that should have put him in a hospital, possibly a morgue. Deep cuts across his torso, arms, and back. A cracked rib, maybe two. His left shoulder, already dislocated from the loading accident, had been hit twice more. His right knee had taken a glancing blow that made it scream every time he put weight on it. But he was still standing. There was also standing, but something had changed. Its movements were slower now. Its breathing was heavier. The bioluminescent patterns on its scales were dimmer, flickering irregularly instead of pulsing with steady threat. Were ambush predators. Their bodies were built for explosive violence, for short, devastating attacks that ended fights in seconds. Their metabolism burned hot and fast. They were not designed for extended combat. Humans had figured this out somewhere around the 8-minute mark. There was faster than him, stronger than him, better armed than him, but every attack it made costed energy. Every strike that failed to kill him drained its reserves, and just kept getting back up. He was running on fumes himself. His body was burning through its reserves of adrenaline, pumping everything it had into keeping him upright and moving. Later, if there was a later, he would pay for this. The crash would be brutal, but right now, in this moment, he was still in the fight. And there was starting to flag. "You are annoying," the growled. Its voice was rougher than before, strained. "Why will you not die?" Spat blood onto the floor. Tried it once, didn't like it. Somewhere in the crowd, a door opened. A human woman stepped into the bar. She was tall, with dark skin and gray hair pulled back in a practical bun. She wore the coveralls of an engineering crew. Her name was Sarah. She had been working on the station's water recycling system when she saw the recording spreading through the local network. She took one look at the devastated bar, at the bleeding human squaring off against an increasingly exhausted, and sighed. "Oh no," she said to no one in particular, "he's doing the thing." Another human appeared behind her, a young man with a merchant marine patch on his jacket. Then another, an older woman with the pale skin of someone who spent too much time in space. They gathered near the door, watching the fight with expressions that ranged from resigned to impressed. The bartender noticed them. "You are not going to help your fellow human." Sarah shook her head. "He wouldn't want us to, not yet. It's a human thing." "I do not understand." "Pack dynamics," Sarah explained. "He started this fight. It's his fight. If we jump in now, it's like saying we don't think he can handle it. He'd be offended. He is about to die." Sarah looked at the blood covering him, at the way he was still standing despite everything. "I don't think so. Not yet. Humans are weird like that. We'll step in if he goes down. Until then, this is his show." The young merchant marine pulled out his personal device. "Anyone want to bet on how much longer the lasts?" Back on the floor, the attacked again. But its movements were slower now, more predictable. Saw the strike coming, stepped to the side and drove his elbow into the joint where he had stabbed the bottle earlier. The howled and swung its good arm, ducked but not quite fast enough. The blow caught him on the side of the head. Stars exploded across his vision. He went down. The crowd held its breath. Lay on the floor. His ears were ringing. The world was spinning. Everything hurt. Everything hurt so much. It would be so easy to just stay down, to close his eyes and let it be over. He thought about the eye merchant. Remembered the fair deal. Remembered that in a galaxy full of cheaters and liars, one person had chosen to be honest. He put his hands on the floor, pushed. Got up. He actually took a step back. Its scales, which should have been pulsing with victory patterns, were almost dark now. Its breath was coming in great, heaving gasps. "What are you?" it demanded. Wiped blood from his eyes. Just a guy who doesn't know when to quit. He really looked at it, saw the exhaustion, saw the damaged shoulder joint, saw the way it was favoring its left side. "You're tired," he said. It was not a question. The snarled, "I am. We do not tire." You do, you're just not used to it. Took a step forward, then another. Your people are built for quick kills, ambush hunting, but I'm not dying quick, and now you're running out of steam. I will kill you. Maybe, but it won't be easy, and it won't be fast, and every minute we keep going, you're getting weaker while I'm still standing. His eyes flickered. For the first time, there was something in them besides predatory confidence, something that looked almost like fear. Not fear of death, did not fear death, but fear of something else, fear of losing, of failing a hunt, of being defeated by prey. I'll make you a deal, said. His voice was steady despite everything. We call this a draw, you walk away, I walk away. No dishonor for either of us. You weren't hunting me, you were hunting the eye. I'm a combatant, not prey. Combatant fights are different. A draw is acceptable. The stood very still. Its scales pulsed once, twice, 3 times, thinking, considering. Then it shook its massive head. No, I do not accept draws, I do not walk away from hunts. Its claws extended. One of us will fall, that is the only way. Felt something cold settle in his chest. He had hoped, he had tried. But he had known, somewhere deep down, that it would come to this. Okay, he said quietly, then let's finish it. He raised his fists. The raised its claws. Across the bar, the other humans stopped making jokes and started paying attention. This was the end game. The charged. It put everything it had left into that charge. Every ounce of strength, every bit of predatory instinct bred into its species over millions of years of evolution on a death world. Its claws gleamed under the bar's flickering lights. Its mouth opened wide, showing rows of teeth designed to tear through armor plating. It was a killing charge, the kind of attack that had ended thousands of hunts, the kind of attack that nothing survived. Did not run. He had been watching for 20 minutes now, learning, analyzing. Despite the blood loss, despite the pain, despite everything, his brain had been doing what human brains did best, finding patterns, spotting weaknesses, building a plan. He knew the favored its right side now because of the damaged left shoulder. He knew it led with its upper right claw when it charged. He knew it dropped its guard slightly on the left when it overextended. He waited, closed the distance, 3 meters, 2 meters, 1 meter. Now, dropped low, lower than the expected. The killing blow passed over his head, close enough to ruffle his hair. He came up inside the predator's guard, inside its reach, where those deadly claws could not find him. His hands found the damaged shoulder joint, the one where he had stabbed the bottle, the one that had been weakening with every movement. He grabbed it with both hands. And pulled. The screamed. It was a sound that would hear in his nightmares for years, a sound of pain and rage and disbelief. The joint gave way with a terrible crack. The arm went limp. The swung its other arms wildly, trying to dislodge him. One claw caught his back, adding another wound to the collection, but held on. He wrapped his legs around the predator's torso and kept pulling on that damaged joint, kept grinding bone against bone. They crashed to the floor together, the on its back on top. The predator bucked and thrashed, but it was weakened now, exhausted, one arm completely useless. Took a blow to the face that split his lip open, another that cracked something in his chest, but he did not let go. Yield, he gasped. Blood was running down his face into his eyes. Yield and this stops. Do not yield. Then we both die here, script tightened. Because I'm not letting go, and you're not getting up, so we can lie here until one of us bleeds out or you can yield. The thrashed again, weaker this time. Its scales were barely glowing now, just faint flickers of light that pulsed irregularly. Its breathing was ragged, desperate. You cannot win, it snarled. Even if you kill me, you will die from your wounds. What is the point? Laughed. It hurt to laugh, but he did it anyway. The point is that you came in here to kill someone who didn't deserve it, someone who never hurt anyone, someone who just owed money to the wrong people. and I decided that wasn't going to happen. That is foolish, illogical. You risk your life for a stranger. Yeah, his voice was softer now. That's what humans do sometimes. We're stupid like that. The bar was completely silent. Every eye was fixed on the two figures on the floor. The bleeding human, the exhausted predator, neither one willing to give up. Sarah had moved closer. Her hand was on a weapon at her hip. The other humans had spread out, ready to move if things went wrong, but they did not interfere. Not yet. This was Still's fight. The lay still. Its yellow eyes stared up at the ceiling. Its chest heaved with each breath. For a long moment nothing happened. Then it spoke. I yield. The words were quiet, barely more than a whisper, but in the silence of the bar everyone heard them. I yield, the repeated. Its voice was hollow, defeated. The hunt is over. The prey is yours to protect. Let go. He rolled off and lay on his back on the blood-soaked floor. The ceiling swam above him. Everything hurt. Everything hurt so much. Good, he managed to say. That's good. Then his eyes closed. Sarah was beside him in an instant. Her hands moved with practiced efficiency, checking his wounds, assessing the damage. The other humans gathered around, forming a protective circle. Is he dead? Someone in the crowd asked. Sarah shook her head. Not yet. Humans are hard to kill. She pulled a medical kit from her bag and started working. He'll live. He'll probably wish he hadn't when he wakes up and feels all of this, but he'll live. On the floor a few meters away, the slowly sat up. It cradled its broken arm against its chest. Its scales were dark now, all the bioluminescent displays shut down. It looked smaller somehow, diminished. But it was watching the humans work to save their companion, watching with something in its yellow eyes that had not been there before. The bartender approached cautiously. You yielded. I have never seen a yield. Neither have I. This voice was distant, thoughtful. We are taught that yielding is worse than death, that a predator who yields is no predator at all. Do you believe that? There was silent for a moment. Then it looked at the small, soft, fragile creature that had refused to die, that had taken everything the galaxy's deadliest predator could give and kept getting back up. I believed it, the said slowly, before tonight. Across the bar, the eye merchant emerged from its hiding spot. It approached on trembling legs, its many eyes fixed on its unconscious form. He saved me, it said. Its voice was small, awed. He did not know me, he had no reason to help, but he saved me. Sarah looked up from her work. That's what he does. He sees someone in trouble and he can't walk away. It's annoying, honestly. Gets him into situations like this. Why? Sarah smiled. It was a tired smile, but genuine. Because someone gave him a fair deal once. That's enough for him. That's always enough for him. The recording of the fight was already spreading. Across the station, across the sector, across the galaxy. A human defeating in single combat. A prey species standing up to the ultimate predator. People were watching, sharing, commenting. And somewhere in offices and war rooms and strategic planning centers, people were paying attention, reassessing, reconsidering. Humans, the galaxy had decided, were not a threat. Soft, weak, fragile, not worth worrying about. The galaxy was starting to wonder if maybe it had been wrong. 1 week later, walked back into the celestial gulp. He moved slowly. His ribs were wrapped in regenerative bandages. His arm was in a sling. New scars crossed old ones on his face and hands. The station's medical bay had done good work, but some things took time to heal. Some things always left marks. The bar had been rebuilt. New tables, new chairs, new light fixtures. The floor had been cleaned and repaired. But somehow it still looked the same, still felt the same, still that same comfortable ugliness that had grown to appreciate. When he walked through the door, the bar went quiet, not the terrified silence of a week ago, something different, something that felt almost like respect. The bartender rippled with what might have been pleasure. The human returns. We were not sure you would. Lowered himself carefully onto a bar stool. Everything still hurt. Couldn't stay away. You've got the only place in the sector that serves real beer. We did not have real beer before, we do now. The bartender slid a bottle across the counter. We ordered it specially for you. Picked up the bottle, it was cold. It was real. It was the best thing he had ever tasted. Thanks, he said. What do I owe you? Nothing, your money is no good here anymore. You are a hero. Winced, I'm not a hero. I'm just a guy who doesn't know when to mind his own business. In this place, that is the same thing. The bar had started to fill up again. Different faces now mixed with the old regulars. Word had spread. The Celestial Gulp was famous now. The place where a human had defeated a people came to see it, to drink where history had been made. The eye merchant appeared at its elbow. The one he had saved. Its many eyes blinked nervously. Human, it said, I wanted to thank you properly. I have been trying to find the words for a week. Turned on his stool, moving carefully to avoid pulling his stitches. You don't have to thank me. I do, you saved my life. You nearly died saving my life for a stranger, for someone who meant nothing to you. You gave me a fair deal on those engine parts. You didn't have to do that. In a place like this, honesty is rare. It's worth protecting. Made a sound that the translator rendered as emotional distress. That is all. A fair deal on engine parts. That is worth your life. Thought about it. Yeah, he said finally, it is. Because if people who do the right thing aren't protected, then what's the point? If being honest just gets you killed, why would anyone ever be honest? Someone has to stand up. Someone has to say that doing the right thing matters. He took a drink of his beer. I'm not special. I'm just the guy who was there. Next time it might be someone else. That's how it should be. The door to the bar opened, looked up and froze. The walked in. It was still massive, still terrifying, but different somehow. Its left arm was bound in a medical brace. Its scales were duller than before, the bioluminescent patterns muted. It moved with less confidence, less predatory grace. The bar went silent again. Hands moved toward weapons. People prepared to run. The walked straight too. It stopped in front of him. They stared at each other for a long moment. Then the reached into a pouch at its belt and pulled out a small object. It placed it on the bar in front of. It was a claw severed at the base. Among my people, the said, when a worthy enemy spares your life, you owe them a debt. This claw is my oath. I will not hunt in this sector again, and if you ever need aid, you may call on me. Looked at the claw, then at the that's unexpected. You taught me something, human, something my people have forgotten. This voice was quiet, thoughtful. We became so focused on being the strongest, the deadliest, that we forgot there are other kinds of strength. The strength to endure, the strength to protect, the strength to refuse to fall. It paused. You were never prey, I understand that now. You were something else, something my people do not have a word for. Considered this. Stubborn, he offered. The word you're looking for might be stubborn. This mouth twisted into something that might have been a smile. Stubborn, yes, I will remember that word. It turned and walked to a table in the corner. Sat down. The bartender, after a moment of hesitation, brought it a drink. Something dark and probably toxic to most species. The bar slowly returned to normal. Conversations resumed. Drinks were poured. The tension faded, replaced by a new kind of equilibrium. And a human drinking in the same bar, not as predator and prey, not as enemies, as something else. Sarah sat down next to. She had been watching from across the room. You made a friend, she said. I made something. Not sure friend is the right word. It gave you its claw. That's a big deal for. Looked at the claw on the bar. Apparently. The galaxy is watching, you know. That video has been seen by billions. Humans everywhere are walking a little taller because of what you did. shook his head. I didn't do anything special, I just didn't give up. That is special. Sarah's voice was serious. That's the most special thing there is. The door opened again. A new customer walked in. Big, armored, with too many limbs and a face full of sharp edges. Enforcers for one of the criminal syndicates that operated in this sector. It looked around the bar with obvious contempt. Its eyes settled on the eye merchant. It started walking toward. Watched, his ribs ached. His arm throbbed. Every part of him was telling him to stay out of it, to let someone else handle it this time. Reached the eye. You owe the syndicate money, I'm here to collect. Trembled I paid my debts. The failed, the syndicate doesn't accept failure, the debt still stands. Closed his eyes, took a deep breath, opened them again. He looked at Sarah. She was already sighing, already shaking her head. Not again, she groaned. Looked at his beer, looked its terrified eyes. He stood up, his body screamed at him, he ignored it. Hey, he called out, his voice was calm, steady, leave the eye alone. The turned, its mandibles clicked with amusement. Another human, did you not learn from the last one? In the corner, the stood up, its scales began to pulse with light. Human, it called, do you require assistance? Smiled, it hurt his split lip, but he smiled anyway. No, he said, but thanks for asking. He turned to Sarah. Ouch, hold my beer. Sarah took the bottle with a resigned expression. You're going to get yourself killed one day. Probably, agreed, but not today. He stepped forward, raised its armored fists, the bar held its breath. And somewhere in the galaxy, in offices and war rooms and strategic planning centers, the people who were watching nodded to themselves. They had been right to pay attention. They had been right to reconsider. Humans were not weak. Humans were not fragile. Humans were something else entirely. Something stubborn, something determined, something that did not know when to quit. The galaxy was going to have to learn to deal with that.